If you're tired of working day in and day out, trying to find new customers, chasing leads, doing whatever work comes your way, and never getting to earn what you're worth, you do it because you love the work and you're passionate about serving older customers and their families. We get it. But what you need is more of the right customers for your business and more income for you and your family so you can grow and help more people in your community. Well, you're in the right place because this is Booming Your Bottom Line.
Hi, this is Mark Hager, and you're listening to episode 78 of Booming Your Bottom Line. Today, we've got a brand new owner's chat with Louis Tenenbaum. Louis is the founder and president of Homes Renewed and is the nation's leading authority on aging in place. The idea that our homes are the best, most economical, and most desirable site for long-term care. A former contractor, Louis was the first remodeler to concentrate his company on aging in place modifications in the early 1990s. Now, Louis wrote Aging in Place 2.0, Rethinking Solutions in the Home Care Challenge, published by the MetLife Mature Market Institute, articulating his vision for long-term care at home. Now, Louis consults with organizations, governments, and businesses. He delivers seminars, keynote addresses, and education for consumers, volunteers, design, health, and construction professionals, not-for-profit leaders, and communities. Louis, it's a joy to have you here today. We're very excited to have you on the show finally. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be with both of you.
Yeah, Louis, I know we're busy. Thanks so much for taking the time. Well, if you know a little bit about Booming Your Bottom Line, really our focus today with the podcast is giving our small business owners and listeners some great information about the aging boomer market and that economy. And to do it from your perspective as a thought leader and the insight that you specifically have, our goal is to educate and inspire them while we chat here today. So why don't we just dive right in and get to the first question? And it's a big one.
Yep.
And that is, why is aging in place remodeling not catching on as fast as people thought it would? I know you've seen it. We've seen it. Contractors see it. What's going on?
Well, I believe there are a couple reasons. One would be that people don't prepare. The airlines make a pretty good buck raising the rate on every flight 2 weeks before the flight. So people don't just generally prepare. Mm-hmm. But I think, and there isn't much policy or programming that speaks to aging well. There's some policy and some programming about insurance, but insurance implies that a disaster has already occurred. That's the nature of insurance. It's meant to solve a problem that's already occurred. Mm-hmm. So we don't really have any policy or programming pushing people, encouraging people to step up to the plate in advance and prepare their lives. The type of things we're talking about, the three of us, particularly in terms of home modification, is really just not a new idea. It's a new idea. It's not historical, and that's partly because longevity is a new idea.
Oh, yeah.
It's brand new. So the concerns, the issues of frailty and aging that occur between, starting at 79 and going on are new experience because living to 79 is a new experience. So our houses are basically unprepared. We don't prepare as a species very well. Yeah. There isn't policy and programming for that. And I think that's basically it. There is nothing encouraging people to do it in a way that would get out ahead of the curve individually or societally.
Right. Okay, well, that's actually leads to the next question. Ideas like longevity and aging in place, and those are big ideas, and there's a lot to them. What do you see as the nature of the big picture, this societal challenge and the opportunity?
Well, so, there's lots of information, almost a barrage of information that the demographics we're talking about are growing, right? Mm-hmm. Aging, for two reasons. One, because of longevity, people are living longer, and two, because of the boomer population. And now we more see that where the boomer population was pictured as this bulge in the python, right? Now we recognize that the millennials are as larger.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we really need to create this, and they'll probably live at least a bit longer, right? Mm-hmm. So we now need to create the infrastructure, both in terms of services, housing, et cetera, that deals with that huge ongoing cohort of older Americans.
It's funny you say that because I wrote an article several months ago and pretty much said the reason that this is important to everybody is because whoever's coming behind the boomers, they're getting some semblance of exactly what the boomers got.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So now we see that, we need to change our institutions and our infrastructure. And aging infrastructure has been focused on poverty for good reason. When aging started as a discipline, gerontology started as a discipline, the first White House Conference on Aging and so forth, in the 60s, longevity hadn't yet occurred.
Yeah.
Our institutions for aging, Medicare and Social Security, were designed before longevity occurred. So we really don't have any institutions that are prepared for that. The key issue in the 60s for aging was that some people were getting old enough to live past their retirement savings. People they retired at 65, they had some Social Security, they expected it to last till 72, but not to last till 79, and certainly not to last till 85. So institutions grew up around poverty as a primary issue. Poverty is still a critical issue, but it's not the only issue. Middle-class Americans have kind of nothing. So we have this gulf between those who are eligible for Medicaid who unfortunately fall into Medicaid as they spend through their savings, and wealthy people who can afford 24/7 care. And in the middle is the huge 70% of Americans or more who just don't really have resources, don't have a good place to live, see bad things happen to their neighbors, but when they go out shopping, it's either expensive or requires poverty. And since they don't have the money for expensive and don't want to become poor, if there's no good alternative, what do? You go home and watch TV.
Yeah.
Nothing to do.
Yep.
So there's no real alternative. And aging in place has been an attempt at that alternative.
Right.
But it needs to have the backing of policy and programming that approaches the vast middle class.
Well, and everything from healthcare to, right? I mean, healthcare is not really about caring for the health you already have. It's about healing sick. Again, the after incident medicine. I think if I remember correctly, I have a friend who owns the biggest holistic medicine, Eastern medicine on the West Coast, and he said it really came out of, I think he said the Civil War was, it was about healing the sick and the dying and the hurt. That's where medicine kind of stemmed from in a Western philosophy. And then like you said, look at politics, and we decided that retirement age was 55 or 62. It was in 1889. Well, in 1850, we lived to 47. So who the hell came up with that number, right? I mean, talk about things being, just systematically out of balance. And it's this huge, Titanic freighter that takes forever to turn if you're trying to do a 180. So,
well, and there has to be, public-private combined support. We landed someone on the moon because John Kennedy said, let's do it. And everybody said, yeah, let's do it. I mean, we built a highway system because Dwight Eisenhower said, we need it. Let's do it. And we built it. Similarly, there are other institutions that we've gotten behind where public and private have come together. Most recently, solar installations, right? The whole country kind of from 1978 or 9 when the Solar Energy Industry Association began to form until 2005 or something when they started passing the laws that led to the recent solar tax credits, people finally got behind it and said, let's do something different. Policy got behind it, and an industry shot off like a rocket.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what happens. We use policy to decide what we need to do. Where you live, Aaron, in the Pacific Northwest, they're doing more transit in Seattle and so forth because people recognize the need. But it's policy that does that, and it has an impact on real estate because certain locations get train stations, We build airports with bonds because we want private industry to have an opportunity to serve people and provide them. So we add runways as necessary to airports. Those are policy decisions that lead to infrastructure development.
So that said, take this back down from that 50,000 foot, political and policy level. What do you see as the nature of this as a a personal challenge or opportunity, whether it's you or a small business owner in a space like our listeners, remodelers, OTs, how do we change at grassroots?
I think we need to look and see two things. One, who are our partners? Who are people that we're not connecting to who share our goals? So the remodelers, OTs, designers, and so forth that we all come from, but also the manufacturers of the products who we come from but don't have enough contact with. And then the manufacturers of the medical equipment products who primarily sell through reimbursement, not private pay. And we're looking for private pay money in our area, not reimbursement money. And then the technology companies, which are growing and getting investments. But we know that the house needs to be an adequate platform for that technology to have a role. So I'm looking at having a coalition of the manufacturers of tech and durable medical equipment and home medical equipment and construction products with all the installers. That's the first group. The second group is the people who want to provide services in homes. And if we can build them the better platforms we claim we can, then they get a better place to deliver their care, a place where fewer workers get injured because the bedroom and bathroom situation is prepared for caregiving to be done well, whether that's family or paid caregivers.
Right.
And now we bring in the healthcare people who need to have people get care in community because of the Accountable Care Act and because of other economies. And we get a place where people are injured less, saving some of the $34 billion a year that's spent on fall injuries, where people can return from rehab more quickly. How many people are in an expensive rehab facility just because they can't get in the door and get to the bathroom?
Oh, I hear about them every week, multiple times a week.
And so if we can improve the housing platform, then people will save dollars and get better faster because they return home faster, they're happier, that's exactly what they want. And then we create this caregiver-safe environment, right, so that the caregiver, I view caregiving, whether it's paid or informal and family, as a three-legged race. You remember those. You're walking along, you're running along, you're tied at the hip to your buddy or your sister, and when one of you falls in the mud, the whole deal is off. You're out of the contest, right?
Yep.
Well, in caregiving, it doesn't matter whether the caregivee or the caregiver is injured. The deal's off.
Yeah.
One of you falls down and is hurt.
Right.
And so if we can create a better caregiver environment, all those things contribute to people aging in place safely and longer. So for the service providers, now we have better environments to scale their business because more people in their neighborhood are aging in place successfully. So that the business opportunity grows, the safety and economics of the business opportunity grows, and we get it to the marketplace of these middle-class voters who will vote with their pocketbooks on who's delivering good care. And now, because you've got a larger scale, instead of the transportation person trying to help out with this or that, or the caregiver trying to help out with this or that, everybody sticks to their niche, does a really good job of it, and coordinates with the other businesses that are offering services in that community. And we start to build a system of aging services in the home. And now we have what we need, which is people in their homes more healthfully, less expensive, with more dignity, and a systematic approach to delivering care.
Louis,
Wow.
Can you run against Donald Trump for me? Will you?
Yeah.
You've got your platform figured out.
I have been working on this, like you guys both. This is a passion for the people who are interested in it. And one of the unfortunate things is because we're passionate, we get too excited and can't tell the story at a base enough level to get buy-in from the people outside of our passion group.
Right.
So we hang out and kumbaya with each other, but that's not the whole world.
No, it's not. Well, let's switch tracks a little bit. What are you seeing that's new or changing out there? What's different in our world now, than it was maybe in 1999 when the CAPS program was first started?
Well, I think just generally, first of all, the technology people are pushing the envelope a little bit, and yet there isn't a great deal of recognition that we need to be their partners. that the physical house platform structure is an infrastructure issue. Two is things like the Accountable Care Act and the desire and the mandate to have more care in community. And just newest is House Bill 5254, introduced by Patrick Murphy, a congressman from Tennessee, that calls for a $30,000 tax credit for home modifications.
Right on.
That's May 16th. So that is brand new. And how we can get behind that, let it be the piece that helps us coalesce around and make sure that it's going to be working. Because we all know that an ordinance, a regulation can come along and stymie the people in the field more than helps them out. So I think those are the things we need to do is coalesce around best ideas. Widen that coalition to include all the players and consumers as well, and I can speak to that, but also make sure that what regulations come down are transferable to the people in the field.
Right.
I'd like, for example, it to be a 2/8 door, not a 2/8 clear opening. Because a 2/8 clear opening, Aaron knows this maybe better than you, Mark, confounds the construction world. 2/6 doors are available, 2/8 doors are available, 3/0 doors are too big, and 2/10 doors are just not available. So 2/8 clear opening is a confusion that probably happened with regulators putting together the ANSI standards for the ADA, because you would never just say clear opening in the construction world, and a contractor can't hear it.
Right.
Right. You have a leaf size, and then you build a door, and it is what it is.
You
can't do that math backwards.
Talking about things that are changing, something that Aaron and I'm bringing this up very specifically because I would like for you to speak to it. Something that we're seeing a lot of interest from occupational therapists that want to find remodelers to work with because they're realizing that they're very well suited to do or oversee or manage projects in someone's home, for home modifications. A lot of interest. We're connected with a couple of people and groups who are doing this now nationally. And one of the big things that I see changing, and it's not changing very quickly, but we're hearing snippets of contractors and occupational therapists getting together and having these frank conversations around the need and the opportunity as small business owners in their communities. Historically, I heard from both sides, contractors and occupational therapists, that neither wanted to work with the other. They didn't see the need. But we're seeing that changing. We're seeing people who are grasping onto the idea that this is good for everybody. It's certainly good for our businesses, but it's definitely good for our community if we do this. Now, are you seeing things like that? Are you seeing more people that weren't talking before?
I am seeing that. I think that there is a recognition of the way that these two communities have skill sets that mesh for the benefit of the client and the project. I see a different problem, though, with it, which is that what I'd like is the contractor to come into your house, take you this $30,000 tax credit, and you hire a contractor to come in, or call a contractor or a designer, probably not an occupational therapist, because you're not thinking health, you're thinking bathroom. And you call this contractor or designer into your home and say, I'd like to renovate my bathroom. And the contractor says, if we do it using these certain rules and regulations, you can deduct it as a tax credit on your taxes. Now, the contractor doesn't have to say anything about aging, frailty, preparation for such.
Oh, that's genius.
Or safety. He just says, it's the cheapest way to go.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like us to move in the direction of remodeling that prepares homes to be a better platform for aging in place is the cheapest way to go. It's really a simple story. And it attracts people. there's three things I'd like to mention. One is the Frameworks Institute wrote a report about 15 months ago called Gauging Aging, Frameworks Institute Gauging Aging, which basically showed that when we talk about the importance of preserving independence, avoiding injury, and preserving our dollars and being less burdensome to our family members, the average consumer hears us say, oh, I didn't exercise well, average consumer of all ages. I didn't exercise, I didn't eat well. I made this bed, this frailty that I'm in now or heading to, but I don't want, and I'll live through it, and I'll pay for it as low as I can, but I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Now, it's not exactly denial. It's actually a hearing of fault. And so that's not a message that resonates. Mm-hmm. And we have in the media, the second Frameworks Institute report said that the media covers two stories, and we all recognize them well. One is about poor health, financial disturbance, financial ruin from aging. And it's kind of a miserable story, but it's a big story.
Oh, yeah.
The other story is the real positive side. It's the beautiful couple, incredibly beautiful couple, riding bikes next to an incredibly beautiful lake, obviously having an incredibly wonderful time because they have the money to do so and they've been lucky. Mm-hmm. There's no story in the middle. There's no story in the middle of average Americans doing a pretty good job of keeping up, of working hard, and of preparing for a life that's middle of the road. So we're back to that middle class. How can we get to that middle class, and what will they join? So how can we bring the middle income voter? These are people who vote, donate, and volunteer in absolutely record numbers. This is the purpose opportunity. Purpose people. So how can we bring them in? So I'll give you my answer a little bit. I went out in January and interviewed a bunch of people and said, do you think, it was over a course of so I set up one set of interviews and then a second set of interviews based on the information I get in the first. People generally think our leaders, representatives, Congress, etc., should do a better job of preparing and worrying and dealing with housing and care for older citizens. Now, we all know that older is always someone 10 years older than you. No matter how old you are, it's someone older than you. So everybody almost thinks we should do a better job, our leaders should do a better job of caring for housing and care for older people, not me, older people, okay? So now we're not appealing to them about individual or personal responsibility. We're societal, civic responsibility for other, important, loved other.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't apply to me.
Those people in that interview said they would write their congressman, they would pay some money to join this group. Some of them said they would march. Others said that their knees were too bad to march in a rally about this. But they're willing to be committed to the idea. So now we have a group of people who I think we can grasp into our coalition, along with the businesses who want to serve passionately and do well by doing good, and consumers, also the consumers who have resources, volunteer, donate, and vote, who are interested in the same thing. But the message has to be much different. The message cannot be about health or frailty or aging. It has to be about civic responsibility and not individual action. Now, those same group of people, when asked, if there was an incentive or a discount on the products associated with this sort of, in other words, if this sort of remodeling became the cheapest possible way to remodel your house, would you do it? They go, oh yeah, I'd do it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, let's be honest, no different than the OTGC or remodeler conversation where they've got some overlap, and so, I don't need you, I can do that, right? Well, you are a contractor, Louis. You guys love to tease architects, hey, cute flipping drawing, how the hell do you build it, right?
Exactly.
Right, that's our stigma. And,
art.
And the good one.
Now you're producing art.
Right, yeah. Nice artwork, put it on the wall because I can't freaking build it. Right. Well, same idea that it takes an effort, I think, to kind of go across that aisle. You've talked a lot about silos, but I think any team with more team members and professionals at the table works better for the client. But I think you're brilliant to say, I've gone to state building conferences and talked about universal design or aging in place, or and the remodelers are there. The builders really aren't there. They're not, and I feel like the uphill battle there has been for, 6, 7, 8 years. Don't mess with my spreadsheet that Dad gave me in 84, because the line in the bottom is black, not red. So I can't hear you. And again, for most people, psychologically, I think saving money, or, if it's tactile in that way, like money that stays in my wallet, then I don't have to have tough conversations about getting older. I heard Karen Sands, last week, who has written numerous books on aging, start saying 40 plus. I'm like, no, stay 50 plus, because I'm 42 now. You got to move that up, move that up a decade, because I don't want it to include me. So you're right. I mean, it's normal. It's human psychology. There's just no getting around that. But you're valid in the, okay, there's the perfectly fit 60-year-olds who are both riding their bike on the lake because they're independently wealthy and probably still having sex 3 times a week. Or there's the borderline poverty homeless, and then where are the rest of us? Right. And what is that story? So how do we navigate that? I mean, are there other places? You've written some pretty important paper and literature on the subject. Where can we study this for guidance as we look to continue to steer this ship in a new direction?
Well, I think we need to pick up on some of the most modern business trends, which is the lean startup method. Mm-hmm. So we need to start in one little place. So I'm trying to start in a place of people say they're willing to support policy for this. Now, in the next week or so, I'm going to be starting on businesses and saying, are you willing to support policy on this? Can we cross the silos, cross the sectors in terms of a coalition? I'm calling it Homes Renewed. In terms of a coalition that will, be the business money side of influencing our legislators and leaders, both in local and national, federal, and the consumers, and bring them together now on this less expensive for other, but that can also be me.
Right.
There's an ordinance in my county. I was on the visitability committee for 12 years. We now have a tax credit for certain types of home remodeling in our community and universal design building. I worked on this for a long time. It's partly frustrated by the fact that the community doesn't save much money because people age in place. The county doesn't save much money. Yeah, property values, but we have enough people wanting those homes to keep property values up and neighborhoods and stuff. The federal government saves money because they're the payers in Medicare and Medicaid. So if we can keep these middle-class people, if we can make aging more economical so people don't fall into poverty and become dual eligible for Medicaid, then that saves the federal government money. And that's an incentive for them to put up some money, maybe not $30,000, but some money in tax credits. So we need places to start with small ways to experiment, to test the ideas we're talking about, and see exactly how to move forward. Let's not build the whole thing. Let's build little pieces. Now, Iteration, exactly. Innovation and iteration. So I know, speaking to the universal design thing, I pulled a number out of a hat. Since I've been doing this in about 93, and going to the groups that you've mentioned, to community groups and trying to encourage this sort of remodeling and still being frustrated that it's such a good idea. No one's buying it. I've probably given 200 consumer presentations. And the number of grab bars that have been installed is probably countable on one hand.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I beat my head against the wall. I've got a dent in the side of my head. I'm trying to find a new direction. And that's the direction I'm seeing from this Gauging Aging study, is to talk about something else. So, I read a book on behavior change called Switch by Chip and Dan Heath. I've been big into the psychology, behavioral economic stuff. And this book said, look for a bright spot. Look for a bright spot that's similar to what you're doing that will bring behavior change like you're interested in. So the first one I spotted was, I don't know where you guys are living, but in my area, they put a 5-cent tax on grocery bags, right? All of a sudden, everybody's carrying their own bag. I mean, like overnight. That's changed the measure, right? Okay? And when you ask people, I talked to Steve French, a marketing research guy. He said, yeah, it's a 5-cent tax, but everyone says they're doing it for the environment. Nobody mentions the 5-cent tax when they say they're bringing their bag. They're bringing their bag, but the 5-cent tax inspired them. Then there's solar and hybrid cars, right? We put out a tax break on hybrid cars. People buy Teslas, $80,000 cars, because the federal government gives them a $7,500 tax credit, right? So, and they say, oh, I did this because it was the environment, right? No, they did it for the $7,500. That's the first question they ask. Similarly, solar collectors. People who were not spending $7,500 a year, $7,500 for solar installation, all of a sudden are big-time environmentalists when it only costs them $6,000 because of the tax credit.
Right.
And the solar industry takes off. And there's even been some anecdotal information that when the installer comes and says, we're going to put the collectors on the backside of your house because that's where the sun is, people go, no. I don't want them on the backside of my house. I want them where my neighbors can see them on the front side of my house.
Right. And then they want you to click like on Facebook and when you put a picture up, because it's all about positive feedback or messaging that you want to send. Or because I just bought a $6 latte, but I brought my own freaking bag in to the grocery store because I'm an environmentalist. No, it's because you wanted to save a nickel after you bought a $6 coffee.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. But so let's ride with it. Let's go with human nature.
Yeah.
Recognize it and use these bright spots to create our industry. And let's think about it rising on a sharper curve, a third as sharp a curve as solar has in the past couple of years. So if we just had, let's pick I don't have the numbers in front of me, and I would love somebody to call in and say they'll help me find the numbers, help me with this stuff. But if we had half the remodeling projects that occur in houses of people 45, I'll pick 45 in the middle there for you. and you're not quite there yet, Aaron. 45 and over, 45 to 70, if we had half the remodeling projects that will occur in the next year become UD-based, how much would that increase the sales of certain products that are used in those UD-based things? How much would that influence the manufacturers to want to support this effort?
That's mind-boggling.
And how much would it save at a federal level healthcare on the slip and fall and recovery and rehab and surgery side? You put those kind of numbers together and we got a conversation.
That's the conversation we are having, and I hope we can get it past the three of us.
Yeah. All right, I'm loving it. Well, listen, obviously, our audience is small business owners for the most part. If you could give one piece of advice to a business owner that's serving older people and their families, what would it be? What's the best thing that they could know or do to help them succeed?
Well, I think it's what you've been telling them. I think you guys have the right message. Go to the Kiwanis, speak to your community, go to the support groups, because most of the work that's going on in the sector we're talking about is really about people who have a diagnosis. They have a wake-up call, whether it is a slip, a fall, an injury, Parkinson's, MS, ALS, MSA, any of these types of things. Serve those people well. Do it beautifully. Try to get the newspaper article about it to be less about their illness and more about the beauty and functionality. And just continue and hang on.
Yeah.
I think we're around the corner.
Oh, I do too.
23 years since I started, but I think we are really around the corner. So hang on and be the providers in your community who know how to do it well, and it will pay off in the near future.
You know, it's funny that you say that. I can't tell you how many times, Aaron and I have talked. I've talked to my wife, or I've talked to somebody, and I've been like, we're almost there. People are starting to pay attention. I'm getting excited. I had this conversation. It was awesome, and I'm all fired up, and I'm like, we're almost there. We're almost there. I've been saying that for 10 years.
Yeah.
Or Louis. I mean, you had your wake up call, I think, in '88, actually, if I'm not mistaken, as far as your first remodel for a differently abled teenager and a mom that didn't necessarily want to assist in the bathroom. So you guys have been at this a long time, but we all stay on our soapbox even when it feels like it's getting a little rickety and off balance, because we want that microphone and we want that message to keep going out. And I applaud you and, Patrick and Louis and, Lori Orlov, everybody that's been doing this for as long as we all have. I was late to the game, comparatively speaking, at 6, 7, 8 years. I'm a slow learner. It's okay.
Well, but you're also younger than we are.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't going to say that out loud.
But you get to my age, you'll be in it longer than I have.
Right.
And by younger than them, he wasn't including me.
Right.
He lumps me in with you.
You got left out of that. Yeah. So, Louis, what's next for you? You've obviously, you've steered your own ship a number of different ways and learned some lessons the hard way and found new points of light that redirected you. Where are you going?
Well, I still deal with individual families, and I love it, helping them, but primarily people who have diagnoses, helping them. The conversation I have now that I didn't used to have, and I have it probably once a month, is with a couple, typically, who is trying to decide about moving. So they're now starting to look at remodel versus move. And these are primarily people who have almost have enough money. So some of them, money is an issue. Some of them have enough. And they're trying to decide. And we go over the house. And I go through, spend typically around 2 hours discussing possibilities and so forth, sometimes write a follow-up memo. And I call 3 weeks later, say, well, where do you want to go with it? And they go, oh, we didn't want to tell you, but we've decided to move. Now, I feel great about that, because my view is if I can help people make informed decisions about moving versus aging in place, instead of putting off decisions about moving or aging in place until it's too late, then my background and my experience is of service to those clients.
Yeah. And your role is, as a consultant at any level, is to be a trusted advisor who gets them to a decision. And it's okay if it doesn't mean more work for you. Your job is still really valuable.
Right. So now if we can step up and make that remodel a little cheaper with some incentive so that it balances differently against the move, and we start to get the evidence that those houses are valuable in the community because there are more people who want that than don't want that.
Right.
So those are two things I'd love to see as I try to develop this coalition called Homes Renewed, whose job is to develop, find support and develop and implement the mechanism and the message that makes it least expensive to remodel your house the right way.
Fair. So how do people get a hold of you?
Louis at louistenenbaum.com. So I have my website where my blog is and so forth at louistenenbaum.com. And there is also a site up called homesrenewed.org, which is just sort of a placeholder site. And I trying to change it up as the idea becomes more concrete.
Okay.
Awesome.
Louis, will you write a blog for me in the next week or two called The Three-Legged Race?
Okay.
Just that. I think that was really an interesting point. I get a lot of blog ideas during these interviews, and I think that was my aha moment with you, was writing the caregiver and the person receiving care, right about that uphill three-legged race, and both ways in the snow, depending on if it came from grandpa or not. Right? Oh boy, we've known you for a long time. You are a leader and a visionary in this space, and I really thank you for taking the time to be a voice for positive change and being out in front of this whole thing and guiding and mentoring all of us along the way. I hope our listeners enjoyed hearing from Louis today, and that you guys are leaving with some stuff to think about. You guys, Booming Your Bottom Line is bringing you stuff that nobody else is doing, okay, in this niche.
Tell you why. You guys see it as an industry, and you're the first to try to make that work, I think, as an industry, and see us as people who are working on the same thing instead of individuals working on their own. And I applaud you both for it.
Oh, thank you for saying that, Louis.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, and we have visions like you do that are, they might be 20 years down the road, but, that there's teams in every, tri-county area that get this, right? And then they get to take the lead and own market share because they heard what we were saying and it made sense to them. And if that's the 3% that get it, we'd still be going somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you guys take, the listeners, take this to heart and mull it over and act on it, okay? Don't take knowledge as a doorstop to, keep your door open in your office. Take it to the street, chew on it, and then go out and do something with it, whether you take a microphone at a Rotary Club or call Louis and ask him for some advice. Do something with the information. Thanks for listening today, Louis. Thanks for being here. And until next time, be well, be bold, and boom your bottom line.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you, Louis. We really appreciate it.